Hi and welcome to Momda's Life Handmade. Today I'm going to share with you 20 of my very creative DIYs that I've done this year. To begin with, I have cleaned it, dusted it well with the brush, and now I'm going to apply first a coat of chalk paint to the bottom, at least till this part where the curve has already started this is the maximum width, and little above it I'm going to cover it with a white chalk pen till this point, and then here I'm going to cover it with the mud color or the wooden color. While painting, it's a thick white chalk paint, so while painting I'm going in the horizontal strokes because I want the strokes to look horizontal as if come out of the pottery wheel. Now I'm going to use this wood filler. It's raw sienna, and I'm going to add it a little to the diluted chalk paint and stain it, and then I'm going to use more of this to get a darker shade and go above. So there's an ombre effect of wood and a bit of terracotta kind of look, which goes from top and goes towards bottom, and it becomes white towards the bottom. So dark to light shade. So in the same tin can where I had taken my chalk paint, I added this little bit of burnt sienna wood filler, and I'm going to take some amount of white PVA glue. Yes. And dilute the whole thing with little water and make a fine paste. Now towards the edge, I'm going to just go around, and even if it's forming this rough finish, I'll let them be. Now what I want you to see is this portion is white and this has a rough transition from this shade to this. Now I'll gradually build up and darken up this shade, adding more tint, more color to this. Now I used raw sienna for the top part, and now to give it a darker shade I'm using burnt sienna. Here I've taken very little amount of burnt sienna, and again I'm going to make a thin paste with some glue and water. You can appreciate it's a bit shade darker than the previous coat, and I'm just going to keep it to the topmost parts only, and this is going to be the final layer. Again at the transition I'm almost using a dry brush so that it mixes with the layer below and there is no color block effect. Now you can appreciate the change of colors as it goes from dark to light. I'll let this dry. Now after drying, this is how it looks. Now I'm just going to take a fine sandpaper and sand it over lightly so that the colors merge better and there is a smoother finish here. Next I took this premium enamel clear varnish and I'm going to apply a thin coat all over it using a piece of fabric or rag. I'm using soft gentle strokes to apply this. This will give it a nice finish. I'm loading my fabric with the varnish and with gentle strokes applying it again along the circular motion along the strokes of the brush. This is darkening the color a little, and once finished it will not only protect the surface but give it the shine as that of real ceramic. Ever since I got this lamp back to my home, I wanted to give it the new finish, the new look to suit my decor style, existing decor style, and I'm very pleased with how it looks now. So a circular sign as this. Then I will need beautiful orange cardstock paper. Now I had this paper at hand and therefore I'm going to use this paper. I'll trace the outline of the circle over this and just cut it out and paste it over this to get the orange background. Otherwise one can just paint the whole thing using some acrylic color. I need the black witches and the moon silhouette on the front, and for that I have taken this black really hard cardstock paper or foam board paper, so something very stiff and strong in black. Now it has to come of the same size, so I just traced the circle using this as a template and got a circle in the same size, and then on the back side I will have, either I can sketch my silhouette, which I would prefer to do because I can hand sketch, or one can just print it out in a paper or a tracing paper and trace it over this, and then comes the tail. So now I'll just cut this out with a pair of sharp scissors. I need small scissors for this because there are a lot of fine areas where I'll have to reach and cut. The reason why I'm sharing this whole tedious process of drawing and cutting is because there might be so many people like me who don't have Cricut or anything fancy that would help you make these items, and you might think that it's just not possible. Everything is possible. If you have the desire to make this, there's nothing that can stop you from crafting. So it's very much possible and you can do this. It takes a little effort, little patience and some hard work, but one can do this. As I told before, don't try to do everything in one go. Take your time and do the details slowly in next step. Honestly, it was really hard work, but hard work pays, and here we have it. Let me just trim this part. Now the most worrisome part here is, I think I'll just take a marker and put some black paint around this edges, and that will do fine. Now the problem will be, because this broomstick is very thin, I need to add some support here as well. Now you can see this witch and the cat and everybody is making a shadow against the orange background, and exactly that's how we want it. I absolutely don't mind being called thrifty or resourceful. That definitely helps. So these are those pieces, the bigger pieces that were cut out when we took the silhouettes. So I'm going to use exactly these pieces to make my bats. The reason is, these are of the same size as the leftover background, and if I make my bats on these spare pieces, I will have the bats in the size that would fit very well in the background. Isn't that intelligent? So let's keep this aside, and I have drawn some bats already, and I'm going to show one more just for a demo for yours. Making bats is very simple. Bats have ears, so you can make ears like this, like a stretched M. So we've made a stretched M like a cat head or a bat head. Then we have the wings like this, and then we have a center point little below it and a tail. Here is our bat ready, and I'm just going to cut them out with the fine scissors, just the way we did the silhouette. So after cutting the silhouette, this will be a piece of cake. It will be just so easy. So here we have the first bat and similarly cut out the rest. Now with this piece still lying flat against this, I'll position it. So this is how it's going to hang. I'm going to position it such that the tip of this comes right in the center, and this is how it's going to be positioned. And now simply I'm going to take these cutouts and glue them in this spaces left behind. So therefore using these papers was so much useful. So now I'll glue them exactly at these points, 4 bats. Just neatening up these edges so that this white pieces of this paper doesn't show. Now comes the toughest part, how to make it stand over this at a height. So I found a way out too. So we have, I found this gap. Now the speciality of this gap is the cross section area is like a square, so it can lie flat against this surface as well as flat against this as well. So, and the width, the side is such that it can easily hold my battery operated small candle. So this is a perfect size lid, and taking this as the template, I use some thermocol here which is easy to cut using a sharp knife. So I've cut the small pieces which are of the same height as that of this gap. So now these will form the pillars, just like architecture. So these will form the pillars over which my silhouette of the witch will rest, like this. Isn't this really smart? Now the first thing that I'll do is paint all these pieces in black. Now this portion is little weak. To give it some strength, I'm using this little stick or skewer, and it's thin one. So I'm measuring how much I want and I'm taping it behind to work as a splint. So this will give some strength. Now you see it's more stable now. Now these pieces are dry and I'll glue them onto this. I'm just making sure that these are placed such that it's not seen from front. Well, it will get seen from the sides, but it should not get seen from the front. I think I am in totally love with this witch silhouette candle holder. The candlelight behind this is making it look more spectacular. Compared to the $28 that you saw on the site, mine just turned out to be around $2 to $3. That's it. To begin this DIY, I have taken this brown colored cardstock paper and I'm going to first make a cone out of it for the main base. So I just measured and found the center point, and I measured this, which is 10 inches. That is actually 9.5 inches, the original one, but 10 inches is fine enough. It's easy for calculation for me. So I'm just going to measure and mark where my 10 inches fall every time. So I'm going to mark them together so that I get the arc, or you can take a compass for the same. Here I am completing the arc. So these are the two radiuses. This is going to be the exact height of my cone. I'm going to cut this out. Now for this side, I'm going to cut a centimeter outside the marked line because this will help me glue it well. On the tip, I'm going to bring it flush because it's a little difficult out there. So I'm just going to fold this edge slightly, not very strong, just a slight, so that it's easier. So now all I have to do is add some glue and form my cone, or add some tape and fix it, and I'll get a cone to stand. So here I have the cone ready. I have taken another piece of the similar cardstock paper and I place it and get an idea of how much my wingspans have to be, and I have lightly drawn it here. I fold the paper into 1/2 so that I get symmetrical pattern, and then I draw my wings. So the wings go up and take a curve down, again a curve, and then it goes up. So there's a broad center attached piece. So I'm going to cut this whole thing out. So this is going to be the wing. So I'm going to glue this right at the back side where the first joint of the cone was, such that the tip of the cone is slightly above the tip of the wings. So like this. So this will make the base of my fairy. So here is the basic structure ready. I just need the head. And I had this beautiful printouts in these colors, and I'm going to use them again here. Now this portion has a lot of colors and variations, so I'll keep this, whereas these are more matte. So I'm going to take this dark chocolate crayon and lightly enhance these dark pieces a little more so that it looks more textured when I place it over the angel. Now I'll have to make sure that the pattern is maintained throughout the design. So this is the first one, and similarly using this as a template, I'm going to make many more of this, many more. For the next step, I have still many more to cut, but I thought I'll show you the next step in the meantime. I've taken the small pieces of cardboard. So what I'm going to do is, these are thin cardboard, they are stiff and strong. So I'm going to glue each of these bark pieces, because this is just a paper. So I'm going to glue them over this and cut it out so they are nice and stiff and they stand out like the original piece. So I'll glue all these pieces on small pieces of cardboard and cut them out, and then we'll start attaching them here. So you see it has this stiff and thick edge as that in the original, and this will give it that authentic look. So I'm going to slightly bend it like this. Slightly bend it like this, again to give it that natural feel to it and like that of the original piece. So I'm going to do that with all these pieces. Now these are the pieces that I'm going to start attaching from the bottom. Now as I go up the cone, I'll have to reduce the size of this. So this one, the broader most and the bigger most will go in the bottom, then a little smaller one, and so the next pieces that I'm going to make will be a little smaller in size, and gradually I'll go up. So let's start attaching the base layer. So right here like this, at the back side I'll put a drop of glue. About this portion that is visible, I'll attach some of this paper, birch bark print paper, later in the end to cover up this portion. Here I've started my second layer. Now you see that I haven't put it very high. It is overlapping the first layer's gaps. So it has to come till this point from where the curves come in. Here I'll attach the printed paper. So this is how it's going to build up gradually, and I'll make smaller birch bark pieces for the topper ones. So if this is 1.5 inches, this is going to be 1.25 inch, and then here maybe 1 inches size blocks for this. And you can see how the texture is building up, and each one stand out well because of the cardboard attached at the back. Now I shall do the wings first before doing the rest of the body. For the wings, I have taken one elongated, roundish on the top kind of birch bark, and the other one is little shorter and again rounded on the top. These are pointed in the bottom part and these are rounded. First layer is going to be elongated, the second ones are more like roundish. So all I have to do is now just start gluing them. And here's the final one. I'm going to tuck it right in. So this way one wing is ready. I'll do the other wing also. So the wings are ready. Now the final step is to do this part of the body. So again, these have thin cardboards at the back and I'm going to glue them here. Because the curve is too much, just hold it for a while so that it sticks to it well. Now the complete body is ready, the top, the wings, and here in the bottom also I added rectangular pieces of the birch bark printed paper so that this portion also looks neater. Now for the head. Now I need a globular head. I searched for a ping pong ball, but I didn't have any in stash, so I have to improvise. Now one can use wooden bead, but take a note of the weight of the wooden bead and whether your structure can hold it or not. To be on the safer side, I'm going to create a globular head. So I've taken some of these aluminium foil because they're easy to work with, and I'm going to crush it, and here is anything. You can take a straw, a skewer. So I just took a brush and I'm just rolling it all around it, and here I have a globular head and I think the size is good. So taking another piece just to give it a more smoother finish. Now why I have this why I'm making it over skewer is so that I can fit on this piece. So now the globular head is ready. So it's like a big bead. So I can insert this, and here I have the head. So the size is perfect, but it's too shiny. So I'm going to cover it with some tissue paper, just Mod Podge it over this. Now shortcut, I'm just using my sticky paper tape for this. So instead of using any tissue paper and doing the process of decoupage, I think this is working faster than that. Now in the original piece there was jute ropes all over, but somehow I'm really liking the wood finish of this birch bark. So here is a little improvisation. I'm going to give it a little touch of color and leave it this plain way. some ochre, some brown here and there, and hope it will come out well. Otherwise, well, there is always the jute rope. Now finally, I'll add a little jute string right on the top of the head, just in case if I want to hang it, dangle it, I can use this string for that, or I can easily make it stand. And of course, if one wants to use it as a tree topper, only needs to insert the tree topper attachment, and it will fit in over this because it's a conical in shape. It will fit into the tree topper base, and it can become a tree topper as well. So I just tied a knot at the end of a small jute rope loop, and that's the reason I've made this whole thing like a bead, because just by adding a little glue, I'm going to insert this piece in. Now it will stay and stick in there. Now I'm going to add some glue at this portion and fix the head. So the structure is fully made, complete. Isn't this just beautiful compared to the original price? I think I love this. The first thing that I did with this culo or supa is I cleaned it, I washed it really well, dusted it, and it's now neat and clean. But you can see there are some marks. Maybe it was painted for some purpose before I got it. I could not take this subtle paint, subtle orange tint that has come here. Maybe it has seeped into the cane. So I decided I need to paint it over so that these marks don't show anymore. So I started with some black and white acrylic color, and this is a weave, so I can create a pattern. So every third piece I painted black, and I did this for 3 rows, making sure that I don't paint any piece that is next to each other, no consecutive piece. Now once the black was done, I went ahead with the white. I painted white right behind the black because of the high contrast, and again I did the same pattern on 3 rows together. Then I wanted to add a little metallic glam to it. I'm not a very bling person, but a subtle metallic shine is something I really like. So I thought of taking a bronze acrylic color, and in the empty spaces that were left now in the pattern, I painted them with bronze. I took care that all the small pieces, even in the corners, follow the pattern so that there's a strip which is full of beautiful pattern. I'm already loving it. The boho heart, the boho corner of my heart is just in love with this. I can leave it just like this, but I should still go on. Now the first step, I need to make an arrangement to hang it. Now this is a cane, so it's a weave, so there are gaps. So I just took a piece of jute string and I went through the 2 ends and brought it out at the back and tied it so that I have a nice string to hang, and I tied it tight so that it doesn't show when it's hanging on the wall or the door. Now going a step further ahead, I decided to add the words spring to it. For this, I just took a piece of paper. It's about 3 inches by 6 inches wide, and I just folded it into 2 and then again folded it so that I have 6 parts. I folded into half lengthwise, then I folded it in widthwise, and then again and again. You're getting the picture. And then cut off a triangle at the bottom to make a swallow-tailed bunting shapes. Then cut individual pieces out so that I have 6 pieces for the bunting. Then taking a broad tip black marker pen, I mark the edges of the bunting, giving it the farmhouse enamel or distressed look. Finally, I took another piece of string, this time a light colored yarn, and with a yarn needle through it, I just went or sewed through the bunting because it's just a piece of A4 size paper. So I could stitch through it, hand stitch it, and it looks really cute when I can see this small piece of yarn through it. Now I am very notorious at making mistakes with spellings when it comes to decorative writing. So after my bunting, after my banner was ready, I went in and added the letters and I spelled out spring. Therefore I needed 6. So once this was done with the same needle and the yarn, again I went into the weave of the basket and I tied it on 2 corners, and once I was made a simple knot, I just secured the yarn there at the back of the basket using just a simple tape. So I wanted some succulents to add here, but I didn't have one at hand, a spare one at hand, so I added these handmade succulents. I tried making some handmade ones, so I added them to one corner using double-sided tape. And I think I love this welcome sign a lot more, and this is going to stay in my home now for a long time. So I started with a cardboard box, an empty one and a clean one, and took it in the portrait fashion so that it is long than the width portion, in rectangular in portrait fashion. It needs to be a sturdy, strong and a good shaped one. Next I took some papers. These are already used, printed on both the sides, used, absolute trash but can be recycled or used. I can even use sticks for this DIY project, but I wanted to use paper because it's much easier to work with. Now this cardboard has a cream color base, perfect for my DIY, so I need not do anything on the sides. I will just work on the top. So now taking this paper, I'm going to roll it into narrow long tubes. So I've taken a skewer to help me roll it, and I'll add some glue on two ends, one width and the long end of the paper, and then using the skewer as a guide, just roll the paper so as to form the tubes. Now because of the glue on the ends, the tube will stay there, it will adhere and it will keep the shape. Once I've made the tube, I'll take this guide skewer out. So always make sure that the skewer is slightly picking out of the paper so that it easily can be taken out. So similarly, I'm going to use some 5 or 4 of these papers and make such tubes. Once the tubes are made, I'm going to cut them using a sharp pair of scissors into about 1.5 inches plus minus size small tubes or sticks. So now I have this collection of sticks or tubes structures. Now the raw material is ready. Let's begin making our art. Now I've taken the cardboard box and I used some PVA glue or craft glue, and that's what working with paper makes it easier, because you can work with any ordinary craft glue with this. So I added some glue in the bottom and added few papers in lengthwise, these rolls in lengthwise, so as to look at the stump of the tree. Next I added liberally some more glue over this stump, and I arranged my paper rolls in such a way that they look like a coniferous tree's lower tier. So it's kind of broadened in the bottom part and little tapering towards the top. So I built this up from going from bottom till the top, and when I reach like 2 layer, 3 layer and the 4th layer, the topmost layer is absolutely conical and it's like a top pyramid, or it's like a triangular in shape. Now once the tree is ready, It's perfect for the winter, but let's give this a little holiday vibe. So I added a star. All I did was I cut off this paper rolls into smaller strips, smaller rolls, and then I just glued together 5 of these small paper rolls on the top in the shape of a star. Now there were some gaps in between these paper rolls from where the back side of the cardboard was seen, so I added some more paper rolls there just over the paper rolls so that it looks like a full voluminous tree. And the structure is made. Let this dry absolutely well before going over to the next step. Now our art structure is ready and it's ready to paint. So I took some black acrylic paint and just lightly painted over the elevated surface of the tree and the star, and also on the edges of this box, just to give it more dimension, more of that rustic feel when the finished product comes out. The little of the black will show through and make it look much more nicer. Next, I took some chalk paint in cream color and I made it thicker by adding a little POP powder, plaster of Paris powder, to it and mixing it. And I used this paste all over the surface of this tree, tried to go into all the crevices, all the corners, over the surface of the box, everywhere, and covered the black as well as all the paper rolls, all the cardboard piece, all in one, so that it looks one unified piece. Next, I took a piece of sponge and I just soaked it in water and squeezed out the extra water and lightly dabbed off the chalk paint that was over the black paint that elevated surfaces, so that a little of the black shows through here and there. Next, to give it the final finished look, I took some bronze acrylic paint and brushed it over the elevated surface. Remember, this is the third layer: black, chalk paint, and then the bronze. Therefore, the 3D effect, the structure looks really beautiful when it came out. My artwork looks really beautiful on the wall and it's just perfect for that modern farmhouse touch.